All right, welcome to the Ravit Show. Today we are thrilled to have Somesh Saxena, leading voice in data observability and the driving force behind Pantomath. I've met Somesh Saxena at Snowflake Summit this year. Super excited to chat with him today and dive into Pantomath's journey, the evolution of data observability, how it plays, and obviously how data observability kind of plays a very crucial role in ensuring data quality. Somesh will also share some insights on proactive monitoring, the challenges of organizations, and what the future holds for data in the age of AI. So I'm kind of super excited. And without any further ado, let's bring up Somesh up here. Somesh, welcome to the Ravit Show. So excited to have you back on the Ravit Show. I know we met at Snowflake. We had so much of discussion there. We also recorded an interview there. So good to have you back. And obviously, just for our audience, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little about Pantomath and maybe the importance of data observability.
Sure. Nice to see you again, Ravit. Great to meet you again, and great conversation at the summit. Glad we're reconnected. So yeah, for folks that I haven't talked to before or haven't heard about Pantomath, I'm Somesh Saxena. I'm CEO and founder of Pantomath. How Pantomath came about and a bit about the company. Prior to Pantomath, I was the head of data and analytics for GE Aerospace. So for General Electric, I led a 100+ person team there, supporting 18,000 data consumers for the company. I own pretty much the end-to-end of the data ecosystem there, all the data analytics platforms, architecture, operations around it, quite a few other programs as well that go hand in hand with data analytics and things like data science, data governance, big data analytics, robotic process automation, and so on. But Ravit, that's where I saw my technical teams, my business stakeholders, executives all struggle with data quality and data reliability challenges. That's where the idea of Pantomath really came about. The need for data observability is pretty interesting, right? Because if you think of the modern data stack and how complex it is, right? Back in the day, it was old school ETL, 1 or 2 hops to build a data pipeline. With the invention of the data lake and now lakehouse architectures, you think of the modern data stack, there's data integration or data ingestion, storage and computer split. There's quite a few hops within that as well. You have data orchestration, event-based orchestration even. You have data transformation, data ops. Of course, you still have BI, you have ML ops. And that creates a pretty complex data stack where data pipelines go from data producers to consumers, touching each one of those hops. And so what happens is the pipelines are actually horizontal across these verticals, but you're bound to view them from a vertical lens, from each technology's lens, without understanding how different pieces of the puzzle really fit together. That's what we were facing at GE, right? At GE, we were facing the issue of a business user, an executive, looking at a Tableau Power BI dashboard, for example, telling us reactively for us that there's a problem with the data. And even they only find out when they compare with a spreadsheet, they get in an email, or worse off, they get called out in a meeting. Someone questions, double check the number, something looks wrong. They go to the IT report owner or data engineer that built the pipeline for them. And then this wild goose chase starts. There's questions like, hey, which Tableau dashboard is the problem? Where's data coming from in that? Which tables in a data warehouse? Which jobs? Which ingestion? There's back and forth troubleshooting, relying on tribal knowledge to manually reverse engineer data pipelines to identify the root cause, understand the impact across the board. Right? All of it causes productivity loss, not just for IT, but for the business too. More importantly, data downtime, data reliability issues, lack of trust in data as an organization, with poor decision-making on bad data sometimes. That's the problem most organizations live with. So when I was living through that at GE in my role, I realized that this is not a GE problem. This is a fundamental problem in the industry. So I locked myself in my home office for a few weekends and came up with the idea of Pantomath. That's how it kind of came to life in the early days.
Yeah, I love it. I love when, obviously the enterprise leaders kind of who have worked in the space, who've seen the problems firsthand, and, then you kind of identified it being so strong, and then you have a company around it, and obviously it is solving. You're working with now so many enterprise companies, and you're solving such great problems in the data quality, data observability space. So thanks for sharing that. I'm kind of also curious to learn a little about, when we talk about the evolution, obviously data observability has been out there since a while now. So how have you seen data observability evolve over years, and what major shifts do you think organization needs to be aware of? I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. If you think of how important data quality as a generic umbrella term, right? Data quality is, which really simply means the data has to be of good quality. The data has to be accurate. The data has to be reliable. The data has to be trustworthy. That concept's been around forever, right? Ever since organizations have been data-driven, and if anything, that's increased exponentially now. But even in the early days when organizations wanted to be data-driven, wanted to make data-driven decisions, data quality was always important. It was always top of mind. So the problems existed for quite some time. Solutions have existed for quite some time. The solutions, to your point, have evolved over time, right? So earlier you had manual data quality. You had data engineers building SQL checks within a data pipeline, sometimes business user recommending them to create checks based on things that matter to the business, matter to a data consumer around data being reliable, healthy, and so on within a specific field, within a specific table. That concept's existed for a while, and that isn't going to go away, right? That's there.
Right.
But that alone can't solve the problem because it's reactive, it's manual, and it can't scale. And so what happened is people tried to solve the problem in many different ways. And as the problem kept getting bigger, given, again, the complexity of the data landscape, the volume, the scale of how much data has been out there in enterprises, enabling self-service, everyone creating their own pipelines, no-code analytics, citizen data scientists, that not just the volume, the problem also has grown with that, right? And so there came a time where that manual data quality wasn't enough, and it really wasn't solving the problem, again, given that it was manual and reactive. So what happened is people started using sometimes homegrown checks. We had a lot of homegrown dashboards in my past life around trying to figure these things out. It doesn't work. Again, it's not any one company's problem to solve alone. It requires a much larger enterprise software solution. There also was the use of APM, application performance monitoring, right, or application observability, infrastructure observability, tools like Datadog, New Relic, Dynatrace, quite a few others out there, really good at what they do themselves when it comes to infrastructure and application monitoring. That does not translate well to the data world. The data world is pretty unique, as I mentioned, right? Data pipelines go from data to consumers, touching all of these different data vertical hops. There's jobs that stitch, cleanse, transform data along the way. And that horizontal world of a data pipeline across that disparate landscape is very different than the software world, where application and infrastructure monitoring exists. And so those tools aren't necessarily well equipped to understand even what a horizontal data pipeline is. And so even though people started building checks in a Datadog, for example, and again, it moves the needle a little bit, but not enough to truly solve the problem. And so they realized that isn't enough. And that's where the rise of data observability came about, right? In 2019, 2020, you had a lot of data observability players, which credit to them for identifying the problem, for creating a software category to go solve this problem. And it was the right thing to do, right? Because the focus on data observability is pretty important. Making sure data is accurate, the data is healthy, making sure the data is complete, it's refreshed on time. All of these different things are very important. So that's where data observability came about, and a lot of companies out there in the space that do that. But that also turns out is not enough. And that's where the idea of Pantomath came about, right? Speaking candidly, I would not have started the company and left my job at GE if data observability solutions out there solved the problem, because they're not end-to-end solutions, right? They're point solutions for a very specific use case. And that use case is if you want to look at the accuracy of the data in the warehouse, again, basically data quality, and you want to look at how complete that data is, that's data volume. You want to look at how fresh that data is, that's data freshness checks. All of those things, those tools do pretty well. But unfortunately, that doesn't solve the problem, because when you think of your table in a Snowflake or Databricks, for example, it isn't going from 1 million rows to 20,000 rows just by sitting there, right? So that check you get, that alert you get in a data observability tool that tells you your row count's off in your Snowflake table, that's helpful. It's definitely better than what you had in terms of manual checks and data quality. But what do you do from there? How do you take action? How do you go resolve the problem? Your table in Snowflake isn't going, like I said, from 1 million rows to 10,000 or something by sitting there. Something had to have happened. Maybe the data's late coming in. Maybe a job failed somewhere. Maybe a job didn't start somewhere. Something broke somewhere in the pipeline that led to that problem. And that's what data observability tools, unfortunately, can't tell you, is what caused the issue, how do you resolve it? More importantly, also, how do you rerun the next 20, 30 sequential jobs in the pipeline to refresh the entire end-to-end pipeline to make sure the data reports and data products are powered and refreshed? So they end up becoming a check engine light, unfortunately, that tells you something's wrong with your car, and that's about it. And my vision with Pantomath in the early days was to become more than just a check engine light, really to become a diagnostics tool you plug in your car to understand the root cause, figure out how to solve the problem. And that's what Pantomath does. It's end-to-end observability and traceability for the entire data stack.
I love it. I love that, how you kind of, obviously, first of all, the evolution, how it kind of happened, but at the same time, how Pantomath is kind of solving the problem, and you've kind of identified it firsthand at GA, and then you obviously came up with the idea that I need to, solve this problem. So that's fantastic, Somesh. Also, quickly shifting gears a little bit here in terms of on the same lines, though, but when we talk about data observability, what are the fundamental components that organization needs to focus on? Because that's one thing that a lot of enterprises struggle sometimes as well.
Yeah.
And how does Pantomath address these challenges and also the fundamental components? I'm kind of curious to know about that.
No, great question again. We have this actually published on our website as one of our key blogs, our foundational blogs that I recommend people go check it out. It is the 5 pillars of data observability as Pantomath defines them. It starts at the bottom of the pyramid. It's a pyramid. It's 5 components. It starts at the bottom of the pyramid with end-to-end cross-platform pipeline traceability. As I was mentioning, Ravit, the data ecosystem is so complex. Those data pipelines that are horizontals have no horizontal representation, right? Everyone has to view the problem from each technology's lens of the world. You have to manually reverse engineer data pipelines to identify where's this data coming from, where's it going to, so on and so forth. Even data lineage alone, which data catalogs and quite a few other data observability players have, unfortunately is not enough. It's just the flow of your data, right? If you're showing how the different tables in a Snowflake warehouse, for example, are stitched, cleansed, transformed, it's helpful, but how did the data get there? Which data ingestion tools and jobs got it there? Which transformation jobs are transforming that data? And all the other components that go hand in hand with that across the data stack, as was mentioned. So the first piece, the first component is pipeline traceability. You have to understand what your end-to-end data pipelines really look like. Without that understanding, you can't really solve any problem. Because at that point, any observability, any kind of monitoring you're doing, it is a siloed off monitoring. It is isolated to each of those data verticals, right? So the first step is just understanding what's out there, understanding the end-to-end pipelines. That is the first foundational pillar. The second one from there is operational observability. Once you understand every single data pipeline end-to-end, you then want to monitor and observe how the data is moving across each hop. That's data in motion monitoring, or operational observability, as we call it. That is looking at every single job, whether that's a data ingestion job, that is moving data from source systems to targets, which is, again, a data lake, data warehouse, or transformation jobs that, again, stitch, cleanse, transform, refresh data all the way through the data stack. Each one of those jobs, again, can fail, may not start. Maybe the job's taking longer to run. That's data latency. The right amount of data isn't getting moved in each job. Each one of these things can happen that leads to what the symptoms are, which is data volume, data freshness issues, and so on. So it's important to monitor these things at its root cause. And so that data in motion monitoring in real time is very, very crucial when it comes to the data observability pyramid. Those are the 2 foundational pillars that Pantomath's pretty unique in. From there on out, some of the others are pretty common knowledge out there, right? Data observability itself, which is looking at the table level checks for if the data is complete or not. That's data volume. Row counts are off versus expected as usual. Same with data freshness, how refresh your data is. So that's data observability, the center of the pyramid. And then you take it a few levels up, and then you get data profiling, which is understanding the profile of the data, the distribution of the data, the segmentation of the data, the min, the max, the skew, the standard deviation, really slicing and dicing the data values as aggregates to really understand what the data is telling you, understand if those values are off, for example. And lastly, the tip of the pyramid is data quality. As I said, that's not going away. That is important. It's
Yep.
always important to have data quality checks. We recommend our customers to have data quality checks at 2 layers. One at the ingestion layer, when your data is moving from point A to point B, and 2 at the end layer, the consumption layer, right before it goes into a BI dashboard or any data product. So the 5 foundational pillars within that pyramid, starting top down, are data quality, the accuracy of the data, making sure the values are correct, the data profiling, making sure the data is actually holistic when it comes to how it's actually sitting within a data warehouse, and making sure it is the right profile, making sure it's not off, making sure there's no outliers, for example, or null values and so on. And then you have data observability, you have operational observability, and finally the foundation, in our opinion, and we strongly believe in this, is that end-to-end
Yes.
platform pipeline traceability.
Okay, these are fantastic fundamentals that you kind of mentioned about. And I also have a curious question around, when we talk about obviously the fundamentals, there's something more about the implementation that also kind of comes into the game. And obviously, and I'm pretty sure day in and out, you talk to so many customers, so many prospects, so many enterprise leaders out there. What do you hear from them, like in terms of the challenges in implementing data observability? How's it kind of all coming together?
Yeah, so you're right. We primarily work with large enterprises with Fortune 500s. You built for what you know. I came from the GE world; doesn't get too much bigger or complex than GE. So our solution has a lot of automation built into it. Happy to touch upon that down the road if you're curious. But regardless of the amount of automation we have built into the product, when it comes to end-to-end auto discovery of data pipelines, real-time monitoring, fully auto-configured, the implementation, beyond the technology piece being fully automated, does have a human component to it. Every implementation does, right? The people and process out of it, you can't really automate. And so the implementation, when it comes to getting the technology in the customer's hands, is mostly automated, right? Again, real-time auto discovery of every pipeline, auto creation of monitors. Post that is when it gets really interesting, because if you think of large enterprises, they're built of these silos, right? Even within a data organization, within an enterprise data group, for example, you have a data ingestion team that is separate from a DBA team that's managing the warehouse. You have a BI team. All of those encompass the data platform team, really. And that data platform team is just one team holistically. There's many others. There's data engineers who are building data pipelines, who are, again, stitching, cleansing, transforming data, understanding from the business how you actually build these pipelines, what they want. You have operations teams that data engineers hand off those pipelines and products to, so the data operations and support teams can monitor those. You have data leaders that on both the data side and IT side, as well as the business side, who actually care about data reliability, care about data accuracy. So there's a lot of different personas, if you will, and there's also a lot of silos, unfortunately. And so what we recommend is following our RACI framework, right? We struggled with this problem you're describing and the question you're describing, Ravit, back in the day. And what we came up with was this RACI framework I'm talking about. So responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, right? That's how you really make an organization successful, especially a large enterprise. Getting a software like Pantomath implemented is fairly straightforward, honestly, right? It could be a lot of complexity if we hadn't built the solution the right way, but given the amount of automation we've baked into the product since day one, the implementation, the technology implementation is automated. It's pretty hands off. But actually adopting the tool, using it effectively to solve your problems is where it was challenging in the early days. And so that RACI framework has been really, really impactful for us. That helps us guide organizations and walk them through how to truly make them successful with Pantomath. So who is responsible is the first question we ask. Who's responsible when a data pipeline breaks, right? It's generally the data engineer or that L3 support team, which is also basically a data engineer, who gets pulled into the fire drill when something's wrong. They're the ones who understand what the data means. They're the ones who understand what the pipeline means. They're the ones who likely built it or at least are supporting it in production. And so they're the ones who are responsible. From there, you have who's accountable, right? Besides data leaders, that's kind of obvious. They're accountable. They have to make sure the data is reliable end of the day. You also have these support teams that are actually accountable. That's the L1, L2 support team that actually triage problems, that actually figure out who do we pull in. With Pantomath, we automate a lot of that, but those support teams, those operations teams are still front and center of using Pantomath and making sure the incidents are routed to the right teams. Then you have the consulted, the data platform teams consulted, right? Someone managing an infrastructure layer within a data stack isn't really the one who's owning the pipeline, supporting the pipeline. They don't even know what data accuracy means in their world, and that's fine. That's not their job too. But if it is a platform issue, an infrastructure issue, maybe a job's backlogged in a server, they're the ones who are consulted with, hey, how do we fix this? How do we get this resolved? And so they're consulted as well, and they need to be aware of these data operations challenges, right? And finally, informed. The business has to be informed. The goal, the North Star for a company like Pantomath is to make sure the data is reliable and trustworthy, and we drive trust in data as an organization. And that's why data consumers, business users that are consuming those reports, those dashboards, that are trying to make real-time data-driven decisions off them, are informed in real time through Pantomath. Don't make a decision off this data, someone's fixing it, and then in real time again, now it's good to go, it's green, it's healthy again, right? So that framework I'm talking about is fully baked into Pantomath's model. And so during the implementation itself, it's really not implementation, it's more enablement, where we kind of help them build the right foundation for how to adopt Pantomath and how to make sure they're successful with it.
Yeah, those are fantastic insights, Somesh. Thanks for sharing it. It kind of helps us, and I'm pretty sure the audience would have more questions around, different things. So, just for our audience, quick reminder: you can ask Somesh different type of questions around data observability, data quality, anything else that you would like to ask him. Feel free to do that. You all can drop in the questions in the comments. Somesh, since I've been hearing so much about the monitoring as well, and obviously data quality, data observability. So data observability aims to shift from the reactive problem solving to proactive monitoring. And how does Pantomath ensures that team can anticipate and resolve issues before they get impacted, before they impact operations? How are you kind of doing it with Pantomath? In the team is kind of helping. So it's more like the proactive monitoring versus the reactive, right?
Yeah. That is literally why the company was founded, is because in my past life, I had executives, I had business users coming to us, which is kind of embarrassing, right? And today, for a siloed off data team, they may not necessarily know what data accuracy means for a business user, for their internal customers. But as a data leader, you have to own that. You have to own that. You have to deliver healthy, reliable data for your business. You have to have smooth data operations. So that subject is very close to my heart, because that reactive approach of hearing from your customers is kind of embarrassing, and no good data leader or any IT leader wants to be in that situation. But that's the world we unfortunately live in, or at least I was living in my past life. And that's why since day one, as I was mentioning earlier, automation is baked into the DNA of the company and the product. And so the way we do it proactively is we not just auto discover data pipelines end to end. So like I was mentioning, there's no manual connections. There's no manual, mapping of which job leads to which table. What are the input output touch points? We snap into a data stack with least privilege read only access to metadata only, and auto discover end to end data pipelines. Post that, we also auto create monitors. So it is proactive. It's not reactive, because we're auto creating monitors for both data at rest and data in motion components. At the data at rest piece, we're monitoring things like data volume, data freshness, how again complete and refresh versus stale your data is. And then in the data motion components, we're monitoring every job for whether it failed or not, whether the job started on time or not, the data latency, the movement of the data, and monitoring each one of these granular pieces in a very proactive way. You don't have to, just like lineage that's fully auto discovered, that's cross-platform pipeline lineage, right? Inter-system, if you will. Monitoring is also fully auto-configured. There's no creation of rules or setting up thresholds. We auto-create, auto-configure these monitors across the entire data ecosystem. And so with machine learning and AI, they're getting smarter with time as well. And so in a nutshell, when it comes to the proactive approach we take, going from giving us access to the different data platforms so we can enable an implementation and auto-discover data pipelines, auto-create the monitors, what users end up with very proactively is that they're monitoring every granular asset within their data ecosystem, every job and every table or data set with the context of that end-to-end cross-functional, cross-platform data pipeline, right? That's marriage of lineage and monitoring. So you know what's broken, where it's broken, why it's broken, meaning root cause, and all the impact points around it to remediate to bring all those pipelines up and running. And once all of that is enabled, you're never going to get pulled into a reactive fire drill again, because you're going to get the notification, the alert in real time with an incident audit created in a ServiceNow, for example, even. So all the right teams are notified and looking at this to make sure you're bringing the data up and running and, again, reliable and healthy before someone else notifies you, before it impacts your business operations. Really, it's detect data problems in real time, give our users the ability to troubleshoot across the stack in a single-stop shop, to identify the root cause and understand the impact across the board so you can resolve these problems in real time, all preventing data downtime, preventing business impact. And that's why it's proactive.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of explained a lot of interesting points here. So thanks for that explanation. Thanks for sharing the details. I have another quick question around, data quality and data observability. So there's often confusion between data quality and data observability. So would you like to tell us a little about how they complement each other and why both are essential maybe for a successful data strategy? I'm kind of curious to learn from you about that.
Yeah, a lot of confusion out there, right? A lot of confusion out there. Data quality is a more well-known term, been around for a while. And so when folks are looking for solving the problem that I'm describing, they still are looking for data quality, even though they both go hand in hand. So really, you hit the nail on the head there. It isn't just data quality, or it isn't just data observability. You need to look for a holistic solution that does both. And that's why that end-to-end observability and traceability with data quality embedded within the pipeline is very, very important. So the confusion out there comes from the fact that data quality means a lot of different things. Data quality can mean very generically for anyone you ask on the street, hey, what does data quality mean? Data has to be of good quality, right? But data quality in the technical term, in the technical sense, the term means making sure the data is accurate, looking at the actual data, versus, again, data observability is looking at metadata. Data observability is looking at a Snowflake table level, the metadata, meaning the row counts. Is the row count off or not, right? You're expecting 1 million rows in this table every day, and it refreshes every day at 9 a.m. And today, the row count is off from 1 million to 200,000 or, 10,000, whatever that may be. And that is looking at the quality of the data still, right, end of the day, but through the metadata. Same with data freshness, how complete the data is, but also how refreshed the data is. Both go hand in hand, right? And so on and so forth when it comes to the data in motion components, right? So monitoring the metadata is equally important as monitoring the health and accuracy of the data. One or the other alone don't solve the problem. The way we think about it is that data quality alone can solve the issue, though, and that's, I think, a very common misconception we have to work through to answer your question, because people feel that, only I know what my data really means. Let me go and create a bunch of checks, whether you're doing that in a homegrown solution, you're doing that in your data lake or warehouse itself, or you're doing it within a software or third-party software. End of the day, that can only take you so far, right? So if you're out there only looking for data quality, I'll be very direct and tell you that is a recipe for failure, right? Because you can go create a bunch of manual checks. A, it's manual, so it's not scalable. B, you're going to create those checks reactively, right? Something went wrong. Oh shit, let me create a check now, so next time I cache this beforehand. Well, the next time the same thing may not happen. Something new may happen. And so you're going there and creating manual checks, and next thing you know, you have 999 checks, and still 1,000th thing is going to happen, and it's always going to be reactive. So data quality alone doesn't solve the problem. Also, let's be honest, data quality is not alone a big piece of the problem. How often do people fat finger things, right? How often are people fat fingering something in a source system that leads to something going wrong? Rarely happens, and also very easy to catch. What most likely happened is that something broke somewhere, right? Given that complexity in the data stack, given its thousands and thousands of pipeline in a large enterprise, that's a lot of volume, that's a lot of scale, that's a lot of complexity. and this complex web of pipelines, right? It's a one-to-many correlation because it's a data lake model where you're ingesting raw data into the data lake, and then you have all these branches with a one-to-many correlation. And so that spaghetti mess, right, without an, again, horizontal understanding of that end-to-end pipeline, that is a true problem. So once you understand that end-to-end, that's when monitoring things effectively makes more sense, because again, something broke somewhere. It's something as simple as a failure in the ingestion layer, let's say, Informatica or Talent or Fivetran or Azure Data Factory job may fail. Something as simple as that. Well, that team that's supporting that environment, that technology, that platform can go and rerun that job, but they don't have any idea what's using it downstream, which 20, 30 different branches of pipelines are leading to 20, 30 different data reports. That's what they don't understand. And that's what we say, hey, at the business user level, I opened up this dashboard, the data quality is off. Well, it's not the quality. It's something as simple as the data didn't come in at the right time or wasn't refreshed at the right time, right amount of data didn't come in. So data quality is 5 to 10% of the problem. 90% of operational challenges with data reliability come from these operational issues. And that's why observability and traceability with the end-to-end data pipelines with data in motion and rest monitoring is important, with, of course, data quality. Can't keep that aside because end of the day, the accuracy of the data is also very, very important. Just metadata monitoring won't alone solve the problem. So yeah, they do both go hand in hand.
I love it. I love that explanation, and also now it kind of also clarifies a lot of things for me, as you know, the connection between data quality and data observability and how it kind of goes hand in hand. So thanks for sharing that. Now, curious question, obviously, about the future, and you know, I'm kind of curious to learn from you. What do you think about the future of data observability? How will it evolve as technologies like AI and machine learning obviously continue to advance, and we are in that AI world? So I'm kind of curious to learn a little about the future of data observability.
Yeah, that's what I really care about too. You know, folks generally ask me what keeps you up at night, or when you're running a company, what are you most focused on? Running day-to-day operations, making sure, you know, the team's doing well, customers are happy, we're growing the company and evolving things and maturing the product. All of that is great. But as the CEO, but also the founder, someone who actually came up with the idea of this thing and really cares passionately about solving this problem, the thing that I love to talk about the most is how to make sure that we're moving the needle, continuing to evolve, continuing to innovate with technology. I can speak about this all day, but in the interest of time, I'll just mention a couple of quick things. Look, automation, as I mentioned, is already baked into the company, right? So auto discovering data pipelines, real-time monitoring, auto configured, all of that's already there. That already is 100x improvement compared to where customers are, right? Today they have nothing. They may have some homegrown checks. Going from that to Pantomath in a few week-long implementation, it's quick time to value already. But that's not where we're going to stop. The vision of the company, Ravit, is to truly automate data operations. Is to really automate data operations in the sense of you don't really have to have manual intervention to go solve the problems, right? The way we're doing that, it's a crawl, walk, run approach, right? We're not going to get there overnight. It's a pretty ambitious goal. But the way we're doing that is today, again, compared to the manual reverse engineering and troubleshooting of data pipelines, today we tell our customers through Pantomath, here's what's broken, here's why it's broken, here's how you fix it. That is not the same as making it super simple for them to actually go fix it. So auto discovery of the root cause analysis, automated RCA with Gen AI in simple, plain English, telling someone, here's what's really happened behind the scenes. Here's your guided resolution, your path to actually go resolve this. That is the next thing we're working on. Add to that, since we already see the end-to-end pipeline, we already understand every granular hop within the pipeline, the data in motion and data rest components that make up that end-to-end inter-system pipeline or cross-functional pipeline. We want to rerun that entire pipeline in real time, not become an orchestrator, not become an event-based orchestrator or scheduler, but just a one-time rerun to self-heal the data pipeline. And so that means if something's gone wrong today in batch fashion, it takes an hour or two to run every single job. Again, coordinating across several different siloed off teams let's use the same use case again, right? Let's say in a data ingestion job, something as simple as a failure, way more nuanced things that happen that Pantomath catches, but something as simple as a failure. You have to now rerun that job, takes an hour or so. You have to now rerun 20, 30 jobs sequentially across, 10 different reports that are using that data. And that's, again, not just that one team. You have to go to the DBA team or the data engineer to go rerun these things.
Right.
Coordination across the board. If we actually have the ability to rerun and self-heal data pipelines with automated healing of every single hop across the board, that's going to be a huge game changer for our customers. And so that's going to be a big focus for us, along with automated root cause analysis. Quite a few other things we're doing to continue innovating, but those are two top ones that come to mind.
I love it. And thanks for sharing those details. One last question that I have, Somesh, is for, obviously the leaders out there, for organizations out there, for enterprise leaders. So for organizations that are still early in their data observability or data quality journey, what key advice would you give them to get started effectively for the long-term success?
Yeah, a few things come to mind. One is, as I mentioned, that RACI model. It's not just about bringing in any kind of software vendor and assuming it's an implementation that's going to be successful and people are going to use it as expected. There is, regardless of how automated technology can be and is with Pantomath specifically, at least, there is a component of understanding what your as is today, which is what is your data operations model today. It may be still siloed off verticals. It may be L1, L2, L3 support. And it's also not just what it is today, but what it has to be tomorrow. And that's where that RACI framework comes in. How do you flip the existing model on its head to understand how you can streamline and automate operations through something like a Pantomath? That's top of mind. Another quick one is classifying your data pipelines, right? So understanding what's important, what's highly critical, what's not, what's getting used by what. We do that through tags and so on. But that is also, these are just things that anyone that's actually looking to bring in a data observability solution has to keep these things top of mind, is and account for these things. Is there's an onus on the customers to actually do these pieces. But besides that, for anyone actually looking for a data observability solution today, Ravit, I'll say one thing, and again, full candor, is my advice is cut through the marketing noise and look for an end-to-end solution, right? Look for an end-to-end solution. Without that, you're not truly going to solve the problem. There's a lot of marketing talk around, automated data quality with anomaly detection baked into the data quality. There's a lot of different components when it comes to how people view the problem. The end-to-end solution is what's going to solve the problem. So end-to-end observability and traceability of not just the entire data pipeline end-to-end, but also monitor the data and the health of the data going through the pipeline to power data products and data reports. That end-to-end solution is what's truly going to solve the problem. That's what I've seen in the market. That's what I've heard from customers, from a lot of other industry leaders I talk to, and that's why Pantomath has that approach.
Yeah, I 100% love that approach, in where, obviously it's more about end to end and, just cut through the noise, but find the right solution for yourself. That's awesome. Somesh, it's always fun chatting with you. I can go on for another hour, I know. It's always like such great insights that you have around data observability, data quality, and obviously your passion kind of comes out pretty well when you kind of talk about the topic. But just one more question, and promise this last question for our audience is about, if they want to reach out to you, learn more about Pantomath, where can they do that?
Yeah, pantomath.com, Pantomath, pantomath.com. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. I'm also pretty active in conferences. We were not as active in the first year or two. We're focused on building the right foundation of the company and the product, and making sure existing customers are successful. But at this point, we're very active in conferences, so would love to meet folks. So reach out to me anytime on LinkedIn, and would love to connect.
Awesome. This is great. Thanks again, Somesh, for visiting the Ravit Show, and thanks to our audience for being with us, asking interesting questions, and definitely looking forward to learning more in maybe a part 2 session, and looking forward to meeting you soon, Somesh.
Likewise, Ravit, great conversation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.